Apostle Lorenzo Snow was the next speaker. He said the position which the Latter-day Saints occupied in relation to God and the duties resting upon them were such as required aid, which could not be secured naturally. They must be maintained by the Spirit of God. The circumstances in which the saints were placed and the scenes through which they must necessarily pass in the future were briefly touched upon by the speaker. The Lord had done a great deal for the Latter-day Saints during the last 62 years, both as a church and as individuals. When they looked back upon their past history, both individually and collectively, they were astonished at the great progress which had been made and the blessings which had been bestowed upon them. When this gospel first reached them in the different nations from whence they came, they knew very little in regard to the things of God. In comparison with their present knowledge, they knew nothing in reference to the relationship in which they stood to our Father in heaven, that they were his offspring, that they lived before coming into existence here, moved and had an understanding. Apostle Snow touched upon the subject of Revelation and made reference to the Book of Doctrine and Covenants, wherein he said any important things were plainly exhibited to us in regard to having a present knowledge as to our condition and relationship to God. The blessings which he had bestowed upon this people were simply marvelous. When the gospel reached them in the different nations to which they belonged, their condition and circumstances were very different from what they are now. The speaker illustrated his remarks on this head by showing how thousands of saints, since coming to the valleys of these mountains, had enhanced their condition, not only spiritually, but from a worldly or temporal point of view. It was God who, through the instrumentality of the prophet Joseph Smith, had brought this great latter-day work to its present degree of perfection. Let them look at the beautiful cities and towns in this territory at this time. All these things were to be attributed to God, and not to the shrewdness or the ability of men, who were only the instruments in his hands. There were thousands of persons now dwelling in the midst of these mountains, who were gathering with the saints here, did not even know how to handle a pickaxe, hoe, or shovel, and many of whom were now in comparatively affluent circumstances. This was a good deal, but it was nothing in comparison with what the Lord had done for this people spiritually. As a people, we must be perfect, even as our Father in heaven is perfect. We might not be able to fulfill all the duties pointed out yesterday, still it was incumbent upon us to do our utmost to reach the highest possible state of perfection, having regard to the peculiar conditions by which we are surrounded. God bless the Latter-day Saints. How firm a foundation had the Lord laid for the exercise of their faith in the time of trial, trials such as probably they never anticipated, and might naturally wish to escape. Let them not be discouraged, but stand firm, endure the ordeal steadfastly, and the outcome would be much better than had been expected.